Hi, I'm Ben,
And I'm Zach.
and welcome to the Movie Vault, a podcast where today we are going to talk about David Lynch, and specifically we are going to talk about Blue Velvet. All right, the plot of Blue Velvet is it's a film noir. Okay, this is just giving me a second to tell you something that I really got annoyed by today, and it's not the fault of anyone in particular, so I don't want to act like I'm calling anyone out. But I was looking for podcasts about Blue Velvet because my sort of process now, if I give myself enough time, is I watch the movie, which in this case, I've seen the movie before.
Yeah.
So I've watched Blue Velvet in the past. I have my past history with it. Then I have my current rewatch. And then I might read a few things, like skim through the Wikipedia. And then I want to listen to some people talk about it. So I go to a podcast.
Yeah.
And I listened to a couple podcasts. I don't know that I made it through all of them. The thing I realized about all podcasts is they need to get to the topic sooner. There was one podcast where it was
we're
like,
not doing right now.
well, we get a pass right now.
Okay.
But that's why I was going to hop right into the plot. But I feel like people need to hear this.
Gotcha. Do they like update on their lives?
Yeah, they update on their lives. We're going to do the watch history. It's 30 minutes before we even start talking about Blue Velvet.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
I need to know about Blue Velvet now. I only have 40 minutes on my run. And I need to listen to.
You're just doing shorter runs now?
Yeah. Yes.
After the half?
Short. Yeah.
Did you do a half recently?
No, I'm doing a half, but I'm still not doing that long of runs.
When's your half?
Yeah, life update.
We're doing it right
it's
now.
It's in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
So April 27th, I think. But it's not going to be that good. So don't get too excited about that.
Is Emma doing it too?
Emma's doing it too.
Great,
Yeah.
Great. Anna just finished hers on Sunday.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it was good for her.
She beat her time by like 19 minutes.
I know.
Mm.
That's probably not going to happen.
What
for
that
me.
means, by the way, is maybe she wasn't trying the first time.
I mean, that's possible.
I'm just joking.
Or you're in bed. I mean, it's possible, but in her case, probably not. It's
No,
probably
I'm
just
joking.
good training, good circumstances, good race day. You need everything to work out. But enough of that. The point, podcasters like
it
to use.
becomes easy to do this, Ben.
I know, and I get that people listen to podcasts partially because of that. Because you don't want. I could just list out a bunch of facts about Blue Velvet and nobody would be interested.
Yeah.
So it's got to be a balance, I guess. But I always say that's such a cop-out thing. It doesn't have to be a balance.
What do you
It's
think?
just at a certain point you have to just start talking about the thing that is the title.
How do you foresee people becoming interested in us? Like, what is interesting?
Well, that's what I'm saying. They're not interested in us. They're
Yeah.
interested. They want to listen to a podcast about Blue Velvet because we're not really that interesting of people.
That's the tough part about life is like when you realize how boring you are, even if your life is interesting, just how boring your thoughts on your life are.
Exactly.
It kind of becomes a little bit depressing.
And we learn about that through David Lynch's films because David Lynch grew up in a similar background to us, which is that we grew up in a kind of an idyllic suburban atmosphere.
Sure.
But here's the thing. Don't let anyone trick you into thinking that David Lynch is a cynical person because he's not a cynical person.
No, this is a wonderful, happy ending story.
David Lynch is a very genuine person. If there's anything that I've learned about him, it's that he's maybe the most genuine director that you could study. He's not trying to undercut the story with the decisions he makes.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like in our modern era of TV and movies, we're always looking for something to like undercut the serious topic.
Like chicken jockey.
like chicken jockey, or there's always a meme.
Yeah.
I mean, like Breaking Bad was a huge show, but a huge aspect of it now, the legacy of it is all the memes from the episode.
Yeah.
And even so, it's a super cynical show. It's like,
Yeah.
look at this person and how their life sucks and how they realized their life sucked and they made even worse decisions and nothing got better. And that's the whole show. Or Rick and Morty is a perfect example, and like shows like South Park, like we're going to talk about serious things, but we're going to constantly undercut them always.
Yeah.
And you're never going to get the satisfaction of like this person learned something or they grew, because they never do. Especially Rick and Morty is super guilty of that. They'll build to like this big, like the character is going to learn something and grow, and then it like completely gets undercut.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. The Story Train episode is the one that comes to mind.
yeah, that's a good example. And if I took some time for some analysis, I'm sure I can find a lot more examples of like, especially with Rick, like, oh, he's finally gonna like break through and like do, or he like did this thing, but then now he does something else that like completely has actions like
which might be more
discount.
realistic.
I mean, yeah, it might be more realistic, but like it gets tiresome is my point.
Sure.
And so it's refreshing when you watch someone like David Lynch make movies and you're like, oh, even if you don't realize it at first, you're like, oh, he really like cares about this and he cares about people.
Yeah, this film is notorious in his lineup.
I know, and it's interesting that I'm using this movie as an example because there's a lot of people who did think that he was undercutting his genuine message.
And if you listen to our Dune episode, Dr. Keener had mentioned at some point that he goes up to the line and crosses it. And sure, he does in this film. But the thing that really sticks out to me is there is a very happy ending to this film. As dark as it is and as crazy as the situations are, at the end, this Isabella Rossellini's character gets her family back. And the bad guy gets killed, gets shot through the head.
All right. Before we go any further
than the end,
in talking about this movie, because we forgot to do this in the Wild at Heart episode, and I kind of feel bad about it, but I don't really feel like doing anything about it now because it's already out there. There's a very strong content warning on this movie and on Wild at Heart. So if you're listening to this and you're like, I was going to go back and listen to the Wild at Heart episode.
Our content warning for another episode is on this one.
is on this one. So this movie is super controversial because of its sexual and violent content. So if you're under the age of 18, then consult with a parent. But I would recommend that you don't watch this movie. And strongly recommend that you don't. Probably recommend that you don't. I need to use stronger terms. Don't listen to this episode. Just wait. You know, you're going to get older and you can decide for yourself.
Yeah.
Because we don't want any parents mad at us like David Lynch. Like there probably were parents mad at David Lynch. But even more so, the topics in this movie, you just should be of a certain maturity before you start thinking about them. It's not that they're not important to ever talk about. It's that you have to be careful about the way that you go about talking about them and dealing with them, which obviously we are mature enough to do that. We're making that judgment.
Sure. Yeah. He says that facetiously.
But I say that kind of facetiously.
But you're right.
For
I
sure.
think for David to include this in his lineup is to kind of include this film in a larger story of, and the content warning is passed, so we're diving right in, is to kind of include, this film is included in a larger story of David Lynch's films, which kind of portray violence, sexual violence, and violence against women, and darkness, almost like an evil entity of darkness. He always has that in his films. It has, just gore. It has, obviously, language. It has lots of these elements that are sometimes hard to watch, but it's not, like, fruitless. And this is a really hard thing to defend. I think for a lot of people that would watch this film, it would be pointless to watch this film in their eyes, but I honestly do see what they're saying. But I also understand David Lynch usually has a purpose in what he's doing. It's not that he's so crazy and out there that he just makes things for no reason. Like, he's trying to portray a story, and there's a happy ending to the story, and there's growth in a character, and it kind of just shows like the darkness of evil. Now, again, it's the same situation. Do the ends justify the means? Do we have to see that much evil to understand that evil is evil? I would say the threshold is different for each person. Someone who grew up and stuff like this is a hard movie to watch. Someone who didn't, it's probably also a hard movie to watch. For someone in the middle, it might be a little bit easier, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I do think the lens at which you're coming at this from will depend on your reaction to this movie. So this movie was super controversial when it first came out in the 1980s, 1986. Now with where movies have gone and TV has gone, it may not be as shocking as it was. Not to say that it's not shocking, because it is. But comparatively to other things that have come out, it maybe actually even seems tame to some people, which is maybe a little bit sad that we're at that point. Like, I feel like you can defend a movie having things in it, but it's a little sad to be like, oh, it's not shocking. Because I think there is an element where, like, the scenes of sexual violence in this movie, like, should be, like, really disturbing and bother you. And if they're not, then that speaks to, like, a broader problem from the viewer.
Yeah.
If you're not, like, wanting to, turn away, skip through it, it's just a little concerning that it's that, like, that there's that much out there that everyone is like numb to it now. But I've heard multiple people say that in modern times, they're like, actually, this movie is actually not really as shocking as like people were making it out to be. And while I see the aspect of that, then you have the people who are from the other perspective. They haven't been exposed to any movies or things like this, which, to be honest, is not a bad place to be in.
Yeah.
And if you're in that place and you're like, I don't want to watch a movie with stuff like this in that, I'm like, there's no reason that you have to engage with something like this.
Yeah, that's a great question to think about, is how much of this can we look at without it becoming glorification of these evil things, right?
Right.
And that is a tough line to draw, and it's probably different for each person, like I said before. And it's kind of like, I really like sad movies, dark movies, ones that I haven't had a voice crack in years. Wow, that's interesting.
David Lynch just brought voice cracks back to him.
Wow.
Well, Zach, that's a beautiful thing.
He would say that, wouldn't he? Here's some coffee, as I'm drinking coffee. By the way, I have to drink coffee while we record a David Lynch episode.
I know, even if like now I'm not on night shift and I should be going to bed.
Yeah. But
I still had to have coffee.
Do you think me and you, as you're a medical professional, I'm a future medical professional, do you think that we shouldn't? That's the only reason we're not smoking cigarettes right now, like David Lynch?
That's a tough question.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we both drink, not to out us like that.
Yeah.
So
Coffee
that's not
and water.
always recommended. Although both of us, I think I can speak for both of us. It's not really that often or that much.
Mm-hmm.
Although if it's coffee, then yes. So I don't know. It's interesting how we draw lines at certain things, but I think cigarettes specifically have pretty direct links to things, to diseases.
Yeah.
So and they're also very addictive in both a habitual and a chemical level. So there's smoking, so I think from a medical professional standpoint, we're like, it's really easy for us to just be like, it's so obvious why this is bad that we don't do it. But if we weren't, and we were in a maybe surrounded by a little different group of people, maybe we would be smoking. You could say that. Maybe we could be doing a lot of things, Zach.
By the way, this is going to sound bad. If David Lynch were right here on this couch with us,
I would smoke a cigarette.
I would smoke a cigarette with David
I would
Lynch.
probably smoke a whole pack.
You'd be throwing up the next morning.
Yeah, I would be. All right, well, let's not beat around the bush for too much longer. I'm going to try to do a short plot synopsis.
I keep forgetting you're going to do this.
So Jeffrey Beaumont is played by Kyle MacLachlan, and he returns to his hometown of Lumberton, North Carolina, after a near-fatal attack from a medical condition takes place in his father's life. So his father is now in the hospital. He's got this crazy break. I don't even know. He must have like broke his spine while he had his almost heart attack. When he comes back, Jeffrey finds this severed human ear, and he takes it to Detective John Williams, but he's not satisfied just taking it with him. He's also extremely bored being home from college, and he doesn't want to work at his dad's hardware store. So the next best thing to do is to take the detective's high school daughter along and become detectives. Keep in mind, Jeffrey is in college and Sandy is a senior in high school, so that's a little odd. I think there's a 4 or 5 year age gap. Just keep that in mind.
If it's 1 year, that's fine.
Yeah, but I think this is a multiple year age gap, so it's worth pointing out.
My wife and I have a multiple year age gap, Ben.
Turns out that they get in over their heads. I just skipped over that.
No, you're good. I know you heard.
Jeffrey enters an apartment posing as an exterminator. He finds out it is owned by, or he already knows it's a lounge singer, Dorothy Valance, who is the resident, but he doesn't know how she's associated with the crimes. And then he steals a key to her apartment the first time he goes in, and when he goes back in, he is searching around, and then he doesn't find anything yet. He hops in the closet when Dorothy comes home. Mm-hmm. So she's with this guy. She comes in. The other guy leaves. He's in the closet. She starts undressing. Jeffrey, what does he do? He doesn't turn around. It's kind of a closet like the closet we have here, where it has like slits in it. Yeah. But you can't like obviously see through it.
But he can move it with his hands, so he could see through it.
It was a little bit movable. Yeah, he could see through, and he didn't look away. So it's a little bit voyeuristic at this point. Not necessarily intentionally, but he's not he's also not taking any actions to not be voyeuristic.
To his credit, like, he's in someone else's house. He doesn't know what's going on. He's kind of got to keep an eye on things. You know?
Right. But so there's sort of that gray area Hitchcockian thing.
He could look at the carpet like somewhere else.
I heard a lot of people referencing Rear Window with this movie because it's kind of like that. You're kind of trying to do a good thing, but you're also like kind of doing a bad thing at the same time. Yeah. So it's like depends on what your motives are. Eventually, Dorothy, he like drops something. Dorothy finds out that he's in there, and then she holds him at knife point and makes him strip all his clothes, which is exactly what you'd expect to happen.
Yeah.
We're not really sure what's gonna happen after this. It's getting very weirdly sexual and kind of uncomfortable for the viewer, and then it gets only more uncomfortable as Frank shows up.
Yes.
And Frank is the depiction of evil and depravity in this movie. Like a lot of Lynch characters, he represents like a feeling and like a story. He's so cartoonish, he doesn't really feel like a real person, but he's very scary and also extremely vulnerable at the same time. It's really probably the film's most interesting character, but also the film's grossest character.
Yeah.
And it's at this point where we see the most obvious depiction of sexual violence. Jeffrey gets put back in the closet, and then there's a scene of sexual assault. And it's very, they had to cut it, but it's very uncomfortable, difficult to watch. There's a lot of weird dynamics going on.
Yeah.
And it's at this point that everyone's probably going like, what in the world is going on now? Like, if you started watching this movie, this is not the direction you would with no context, you wouldn't expect the movie to go in this direction.
Yeah, it seems like fun and lighthearted before that. I mean, there's not really much cursing before that too.
Yeah, and Frank, he knows how to use a curse word.
I think he uses all of the F words in the movie.
And there, so from this point, I could get into all the nitty-gritty details, but the important things to know are that what we find out is Dorothy has been kidnapped by Frank, and he's holding her hostage through the kidnapping of her husband and son. So she's not hostage in the sense that she can't leave her apartment, but she's hostage in the sense that something will happen to people that she loved if she doesn't comply with what's happening. There also seems to be a little bit of Stockholm syndrome going on with her relationship with Frank. Like, who knows how long this has been happening? But at the same time, you're like, is it Stockholm syndrome, or does she realize I really have to comply with this weird sadomasochistic, like, whatever's going on with Frank in order for her son to survive? Damaged. So it might not be Stockholm syndrome. It's just like an extreme knowledge of like, I need to comply. What makes it strange is her relationship with Jeffrey, which Jeffrey comes back because, again, I think he has there's a part of him, and this gets into the psychoanalysis, that is drawn to this like broken figure of Dorothy Valance, and then she draws him into sort of, they have a love-making scene, but it again goes into like a sadomasochistic, she asks him to hit her. So clearly all of that's happened to Dorothy Valance is also affecting her. Yeah. And Jeffrey is now being pulled into it, he's willfully going into it. Yeah. But he also he has nightmares about that after it happens, because it just kind of happens, and he's like, what is going on? It's like life happens so quickly, you know? Things change so fast, and he is very naive, and he's becoming very much less naive as the movie goes on. Yeah. He's not the smartest kid, and he's still trying to maintain this relationship with Sandy, which it's hard to tell if is genuine or he's still kind of using her for her relationship with his father or her father, who's the detective. But eventually Frank catches on to Jeffrey's involvement as the more and more that he shows up at places, and he gets dragged out to a night with Frank, which is like the least fun night ever. my favorite part of the movie, I'm kind of joking when I say this, but it was a super memorable part of the movie when I first watched this, was a line where Frank asked Jeffrey what kind of beer he likes. Jeffrey says Heineken, and in sort of a derogatory way, Frank says that he prefers Pabst Blue Ribbon, and it always stuck with me. The first beer I ever drank was a Pabst Blue Ribbon. I don't know what that says about me. I've also had Heineken. They're both very good.
Yeah.
But Pabst Blue Ribbon has been my consistent, if I want a light beer. It's very cheap. That doesn't hurt anything.
Okay.
So it's kind of like, it's supposed to show the difference between their class. Actually, there's an entire video on YouTube, I didn't watch it, that talked about the differences in the beers that people drink and what it says about the people.
In this film specifically?
Yeah. So the detective drinks Budweiser. And then Jeffrey drinks Heineken. So it's kind of Budweiser's like a standard American beer, detective American guy.
Yeah.
Then you got Heineken, which is an imported beer. It's not like a super fancy or high end beer, but it's imported, which gives it a sense of elevation.
Sure.
And it's marketed that way.
Yeah.
So Jeffrey, being a college kid, he's drinking Heineken.
Gotcha.
And that's why Frank is so turned off by it, because Pabst Blue Ribbon is the working man's beer.
Yeah.
I mean, lately it's come around to where it's kind of like a hipster thing to like drink Pabst Blue Ribbon.
Gotcha.
To be like, I'm purposely drinking a beer that's like super low quality.
Yeah.
Because it's cool and it has a cool logo, which it does. But it kind of goes into, a lot of beer tastes really similar. It's more about the image that you have when you're drinking it. So it's an interesting little subplot. But at this point, we also meet this guy named Ben, who's like the weirdest guy in the movie.
Yes.
And he's played by Dean Stockwell. And he performs a lip sync of Roy Orbison's In Dreams, which is super awesome. And there's all these weird people at this apartment, and they're just there.
Yes.
And then there's this high-speed chase. Eventually, what ends up happening is Jeffrey gets out of the situation, but he runs into a naked, bruised, beaten Dorothy Valance at his house as Sandy's boyfriend is confronting him, and then immediately realizes that he's also in over his head with Jeffrey. Then it's kind of the high school to college, I don't know.
Yeah.
And Sandy's freaking out, but Sandy also doesn't know about the extent of his relationship with Dorothy.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of secrets and things that are coming out at one time, but they eventually focus on helping Dorothy, and then they raid Frank's apartment, and somehow Jeffrey ends up back in Frank's apartment, or in Dorothy Valance's apartment. I don't think this is part of the raid. This isn't part of the setup, is it? Because he gets there before. He gets there before the raid. He goes back to her apartment before the raid happens.
Yeah, and
then the raid happens, and Frank comes into the apartment and he shoots him. So Frank's dead, and Frank has shot a couple other people at this point. The guy, there's this whole man in the yellow suit who's like the link between the police department and Frank. He's not that interesting. That's why I didn't really mention him, but he gets killed at the end. So that happens. And then at the end of the movie, Jeffrey and Sandy do continue to have a relationship. Dorothy has been reunited with her son, and it's a happy ending.
Yeah, surprisingly. I was a little confused at the end part where the man in the yellow suit, he was just standing there and he was dead. Why was he still standing?
Yeah, and then does he shoot him again?
Yeah, and then he falls after that.
That's a little, I don't know if that's just creative imagery.
Yeah.
So we spent a little bit more time on the plot than we normally do, but I do think this movie is one that's worth summarizing.
Yeah.
Because a lot of stuff happens. It's not as surreal as Lynch's other movies, but it's still very odd in the way that things happen.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily dreamlike, but there are dreams that are referenced and dreamlike imagery. And what's fascinating about it is that it's such a contrast in tone. So this is what really put off a lot of people too. A lot of the first part of the movie where we meet Jeffrey is sort of like this tongue-in-cheek, I love the suburbs thing. And it's like a little noir where these ditzy teenagers are getting into a mystery. Ooh, this will be fun. And then it takes a super dark turn
immediately.
But But there's also this element of music that goes through it. I mean, Dorothy Valance singing Blue Velvet at the lounge, and the Roy Orbison song, and even the initial Bobby Vinton Blue Velvet at the start of the movie.
Of course, you know all this.
Yeah. So I'm saying there's so many things. I think it probably overwhelms a lot of people the first time they watch it because they don't know how to feel. It hits you in the face so much. But welcome to the world of David Lynch, right?
Welcome to the world in general. I mean,
yeah.
That's a good point. Like,
so then I guess the question is, with the theme of the movie, is the point we grow up in an ideal world, we grow up in like a bubble and we don't know that evil exists. And then as we get older, we kind of sometimes can get like, you're so protected, and then all of a sudden you realize the depth of the depravity of humanity.
Yeah, McLaughlin's character is definitely that character, right? He comes straight out of college. Like you said, he drinks Heineken, which is something I definitely missed. Would anybody realize that outside of that one passing comment in another YouTube video?
He drinks Heineken like 2 times in the.
Okay, I'm just wondering. I'm just saying, but yeah, I guess okay. I'm just wondering. That seems really deep, but I get it, and it makes sense. But yeah, he at first is kind of confused. I think the naivete that I see in him is he almost feels like he kind of has to fulfill some type of sexual relationship with Isabel Rossellini's character to almost please her and make her happy, make her situation better, if that makes sense. Like, he felt obligated to kind of give her a good time, if that makes, like, I don't know, does that kind of make sense? Like, which is such a damaging and bad thing if he's going to be wise about it. But he's so naive in this situation. He thinks that what she needs is what she's asking, besides taking it too far, right, hitting stuff like that.
I kind of view Jeffrey as a plastic bag. He's like, he exists and he gets blown.
Yeah.
And he's curious, but he's too curious. And I guess, I don't know, when you talk about like people, like it sort of dips into this idea that your thoughts and imaginations can take you to places that go a lot further than you imagined in the first place. So like some people would call it like perversion, and that's the question. Like, we know Frank's perverted. Mm-hmm. He's broken beyond fixing. Sure. Like, he's an irredeemable character. That's why he dies at the end. But Jeffrey is someone who is like, appears to be in it for the right motives, but then he's not even really sure what his motives are. That's why I think like the whole going back and his relationship with Dorothy Valance, like, yeah, in some ways he might rationalize it like this is a good thing. In other ways he might just be like fulfilling a desire that he didn't know he had, and now he has, and now he's just like acting on it and not really thinking, because he's portrayed as someone who acts way before he thinks.
Yes.
And so maybe in a lot of ways this movie is showing, like, as a young person, the temptation is always to act before you think, and then you learn of all the consequences after you act. He
ends up hitting her.
Yeah.
I mean, he ends up hitting her. So it's like, I wonder if that's how Frank started out too. Just like voyeurism leading into that.
And people have all kinds of theories on Frank. A lot of people think that Frank comes from an abusive relationship, or abuse, like child abuse, or some sort of like, they can't imagine him being that way without there being like intense trauma in his past, especially with the you know, sort of Oedipus complex, mommy, daddy, baby things going on with Frank, which we don't have to spend a lot of time talking about, but it is important to know that he's a character who likes to exert a lot of power, but then at certain points gives up all of the power in the relationship, yet he still holds all the power. So it's a very complex dynamic. And I don't know anything about his crew of people around him, but based on Ben and based on that, it's just a really, I mean, these are not your average gangsters. These are some messed up in the head.
They're worse. Yeah,
perverted. Mm-hmm. Like they're in it to make money, but they're also in it to make like really bad
pleasure
choices, and for pleasure. It's very hedonistic.
And this is, Frank really reminded me of Tim Roth's character in Inland Empire, and then also of Bob from Twin Peaks.
Yes.
Similar, just pure evil manifestations that have, you know, some sense of personality to them, but really are just in it for their own pleasure, and often have some type of sexual violence involved. It seems like that's a big theme in Lynch's filmography, is this evil entity that preys on women, honestly.
And so people view Kyle MacLachlan a lot of times as Lynch. Like, Lynch is the Kyle MacLachlan character. Because the story behind the premise of this movie is Lynch said, I've always wanted to know what it would be like to stand in a woman's locker room and watch them undress, or something like that.
Yeah.
It was literally like the Dorothy Valance scene. And the producer's like, oh yeah, we could make something out of that. Because they're like thinking, oh, this is going to be, provocative, which it was, but maybe not quite in the sense that they thought it was going to be. It's interesting. So you can see Jeffrey having a thought like that.
Sure.
And so Lynch has had a thought like that in his life. It's not a good thought.
No. Not
you
by
can
any
portray it in a way that seems kind of innocent, but it's really, if you really dig deep, it's not a good thought.
No,
it's
not
like
at all.
I'm being voyeuristic intentionally. That's not a good thing.
No, it's evil.
Yeah.
And the thing about Lynch too is like, I don't really see him as a romantic kind of guy, but he is married to this actress, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's something that draws people into Lynch. It's the Kyle MacLachlan. I think it is somewhat the naivety, the just drive and passion that he has for life and the genuineness. But it doesn't seem like it lasts, like, or it's, I don't know. There's maybe something missing for people in that too. But if you look at Lynch as Kyle MacLachlan, it makes a lot of sense. But he also had this thing that happened in his childhood that was traumatic to him, where he and his brother were like walking home, and I could butcher this story, but you can listen to 1,000 other podcasts and they tell the same story. And he sees a like naked woman just appear out of the dark, and it looks like, I don't know that he gives it a lot of context, but I think the indication is that something bad has happened to her, or there's some sort of violence that's happened to her, and he's never been able to lose that thought. So again, he's combining sort of these ideas, and then he makes a movie around the ideas, things that happen. So Blue Velvet in a lot of ways is personal to his life. I mean, he grew up in this, like I keep saying, this Northwest idyllic suburban environment.
Yeah.
He loved it. He's not like, there'll be people who write articles and make video essays about how Blue Velvet is about American suburbia and how it's like, and I've been guilty of thinking of this about this movie too, because it's a direction it seems like it might go. Like, suburban America looks like this great place, and it's actually terrible, like Poltergeist. You're like, this keeps happening. Certain other movies.
It's the coffee, I think.
Yeah, it dries out my mouth. I need to drink water.
Yeah.
But that's not what Blue Velvet's about. David Lynch thinks the suburbs are great. He thinks everyone should live in the suburbs and grow up in the suburbs. He wishes people he hated living in Philadelphia. He made a Eraserhead about how he hated living in bad neighborhoods.
Mm-hmm.
David Lynch wishes nothing other than everyone gets a chance to live with white picket fences and have a safe environment to look at nature, and he wants that for everyone. Mm-hmm. So it's not this like undercutting of American capitalism or anything, which is really refreshing because it feels like that's what every other filmaker is interested in. David Lynch really not interested in capitalism at all.
No,
it doesn't have anything to do with feelings.
He's never based any of his films on money.
No, and he even says that he's like movie making is not a career; it should be about the art. He has no. I mean, I'm sure he did pretty well for himself, but it's kind of out of the result of he was chasing a feeling in his movies.
No, that's displayed in his lack of care for going into the big budget film industry and like refusing to do not The Last Jedi, Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, he has such a strong artistic vision that he can't compromise, that he couldn't do something like Dune again and like cave even more to the studio. Because essentially, if he got another shot at a big budget movie after Dune, they would be like, okay, you have to make even more compromises to your vision. You can't, like, you have even less of a leash.
Yeah. Who is the most in industry director? Michael Bay?
Yeah, but even Michael Bay has like a vision. Really? Like, I feel like the most in industry, his vision's like things are exploding a lot. It might not be a good vision.
That's what he's known for.
Yeah, but like he's at least known for it. Okay, I'm saying the most in industry people are people you've never heard of, because they literally just get hired to, like, somebody else wrote the script, somebody else is producing, somebody else is creating the vision.
Lately. Not a lot of big directors coming out.
It's not big directors. It's because they don't want to. I mean, the big directors were doing it for the paycheck probably, and because it had some notoriety for a while.
Ryan Coogler's gone very corporate lately.
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe
Even his next movie looks kind of corporate.
Yeah.
I loved Fruitvale Station.
Really?
That's his like smaller independent movie.
You could say the Russo brothers. They do a lot of, but they've done a couple independent films, but
Russo brothers are very corporate nowadays.
They've failed though.
Yeah, they have, which is really disappointing after Community. Their success with Community.
Yeah, and Arrested Development. But
it's like sometimes you can get so sucked into the corporate thing, you just forget about what made things so special.
You don't have to forget. You just have to love money more.
Yeah, I agree.
They're probably making $1 billion off.
Well, it's because like I think the reason that some of these things aren't working is they just are like, oh, we're gonna get this actor, and we're just gonna plug it in here, and it's like an equation. It's not like, so of course nobody's gonna be actually interested in it.
Is Christopher Nolan corporate? That's a good question.
He's a blend. He is corporate.
Yeah,
you have to be corporate to get the budgets he gets.
I'm just wondering, like,
but I think the thing that works super well about Nolan is that he has a formula for his movies, which works well for the studio system. So you hire David Lynch, he might not even have his idea completed. He's just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna make so the O.J. Simpson trial. That's an interesting thing that happened, and I love the desert. You're like in a meeting, like the executive sitting there. Okay, David, what's your pitch? Well, I've been watching the news, and this O.J. Simpson guy, wow, what a fella. And I've been thinking a lot in my meditations, the desert has been just on my mind. So, yeah, and then it's like, okay, we made Lost Highway. So
I haven't seen Lost Highway yet.
I know, and it doesn't really spoil Lost Highway, but allegedly Lost Highway was somewhat based on the OJ trial.
Interesting.
So we'll see whether you pull that out of it.
That's a good point. He's not as bad as Malick when it comes to not working well with big.
No, he works well with people. That's the thing about Lynch. That's the one thing.
With like the corporate and then him keeping his vision. Like Malick obviously would delay movies past when legal contracts would expire.
Yeah, I mean, you got to hand it to Lynch at the same time. They call him and Wikipedia, they give him this label in his career. Now I'm gonna have to just like vamp for a little bit, and I hate that word. It's my least favorite word ever, but I'm still gonna use it.
What does vamp mean?
Well, it's a podcast term I've heard people use. It's like when you just are like saying words to fill space before you get to another thought.
Interesting. I just asked what vamping is so that I could vamp a little bit.
So he's called a populist surrealist. So in Wikipedia, like his 1980 to 89.
You're gonna have to explain that to me.
So what is populist? A populist is like a man of the people. What is surrealism? Surrealism is like abstract art, abstract film.
Yeah.
Ideas, concepts, less plot heavy. So it almost seems like an oxymoron that someone would be a populist extremist.
Yeah.
Or populist extremist. Populist surrealist. Populist extremist could definitely happen. Populist surrealist, because surrealism doesn't seem like something that would really come like. It's something that it seems like only a few people would appreciate, because it's like an acquired taste, just like really good coffee or something.
That's a good point. Why?
So why has
Lynch so popular?
Yeah, why has Lynch broken through and able to gain this cult that's almost not even a cult? It's like he's actually just a popular director.
Lynchian.
Yeah, and Blue Velvet was the first example of that. Maybe the best example outside of Twin Peaks, the first 8 episodes. Because that's maybe the only thing he's done that's more popular than Blue Velvet.
Yeah.
And I know Mulholland Drive is a critically acclaimed movie, but I don't think it had the cultural impact that Blue Velvet had.
Probably not.
Because this was a truly like, if you were in the know in film, if you were like, this was a moment to go see this. And it was partially because it was so controversial.
Yeah. I like this film better than Mulholland Drive. I think it's better.
I think it's better than Mulholland Drive. I think it's maybe the most Lynch movie other than Inland Empire.
I had that thought.
With the exception of Inland Empire.
I had that thought that this is like a good, if you're going to say this is what Lynch is like, then you would recommend this film.
Yeah. I mean, he sort of wears his influences on his sleeve with the Hitchcock stuff, but because he's always been a noir guy. He loves detectives. That's the fascinating thing about Lynch. it's not like he takes away all structure from his movies. He's like, I love crime movies, I love detective movies, but I'm gonna push them in these places that normally they wouldn't go. And I also heard somebody brought up the point on a podcast. I think this was the Cinema Spectator podcast that they brought this up, and I thought it was a really good point. Hitchcock would not have been able to make this movie. It's just simply the Hays Code, like his reputation. He wouldn't have been able to make Blue Velvet.
Yeah.
And push it to the direction it went. So Lynch is just like the next extension of like where you would go with Hitchcock, but then you add in an entire new element of surrealism, which I'm not saying Hitchcock never dealt in surrealism at all, but it's not necessarily you expect a Hitchcock movie to have like certain beats and points.
Yeah.
Whereas Lynch, it's less so.
Yeah.
There's certain beats and then things get switched up and then it gets crazy.
One thing I noticed is in all of Lynch's dream sequences outside of The Elephant Man, there's always like fire. He kind of really likes fire. I think of Fire Walk with Me, The Dreams. I think of Wild at Heart. I guess now I'm thinking of Terrence Malick. But the other, this film as well, like, I don't know. He's got some images that are kind of used throughout lots of different films, right? And fire is one of them. Also the, like the drapes, not the drapes. I'm thinking of Twin Peaks, but the...
drapes?
The velvet drapes is what I mean to say.
Yeah, the velvet drapes and the red drapes in Twin Peaks.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, so he's got some images that he repeats and kind of continues those, which is really cool. There's always like a disfigured body or character in the films, whether that's the Elephant Man or the Short Man that talks backwards or the giant. You know, there's always something. And in Mulholland Drive, you have the caveman. You know what I mean? Like, you have all these different characters who kind of protrude or stick out from the other ones, and so he has these motifs that he kind of follows. The detective one is another one I noticed, and then the actors also add into that, right? Because you have McLaughlin, you have Laura Dern. By the way, great crossover in here, because I hadn't seen this film before, and I'd seen Twin Peaks, I'd seen Dune, and I'd seen Inland Empire. So I love Laura Dern, I love Kyle MacLachlan, but they have lots of chemistry in this film. It's been good. It was good. And it kind of shows that like these actors probably wouldn't be popular without a man like David Lynch. But
Kyle MacLachlan would not be anywhere notable without David Lynch.
No, but like DiCaprio and De Niro would be famous without Scorsese. They would.
Yeah.
But these actors, they need David Lynch to some degree. So I think it's a props to him in some ways.
Laura Dern, this was super early on in her career, and
she was so young.
She had connections more than McLaughlin, so maybe she would have got somewhere without him, but she definitely went to the most interesting places probably in her career with David Lynch. And then he loves, like, Jack Nance.
Yes,
is in this.
Yes.
Eraserhead. Like I said, Dean Stockwell. And then Dennis Hopper. He really needed this movie too. He's a pretty well known actor, but Hopper was coming off a pretty bad part of his life. Coming out of rehab, drug and alcohol addiction. He said he drank like 28 beers a day, and I don't know that he's being facetious about this. And then he'd like have a fifth of rum just in case. So he was in really bad, and he had basically burnt a ton of bridges in Hollywood. And he came to Lynch and was like, "I need to be Frank Booth. I am Frank Booth," which is that's a scary thing to say in your life when you're like, "I am this character who's like the epitome of evil." But he understood he was super broken, and from this point his career goes up again, and he has a resurgence and is able to mainly stave off his addictions, from what I understand. And I think Lynch, there were some other people that were supposedly going to be Frank Booth. Harry Dean Stanton was one of them, which was I could not see Harry Dean Stanton he's Wild at Heart. He's the love interest of Diane Ladd's character.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I just couldn't see him as Frank Booth. He turned it down because it was too dark. A lot of people were scared off.
Dark too. Come on.
Scared off. Diane Ladd, actually, Lauren Dern's mom, hated this movie. Did not like that she was in this movie. Yet still ended up being in Wild at Heart. David was like, "Well, I know you were mad at me, but I got a part for you now." And she got the Academy Award nomination out of it. So
that's
that
right,
didn't end up
because
too
Wild
bad.
at Heart was 90, and this was 86, so 4 years.
Another interesting thing, The original cut of this movie was 4 hours.
I wonder
Can you
what else
imagine
would
a
have.
4-hour Blue Velvet? It couldn't have been anything good.
Mm-mm.
I think this was just Lynch, overshooting and then cutting it down to what he thought. He did have a 2-hour hard deadline. That was the one thing. This movie was super low budget, $4 million, which basically meant they let Lynch do whatever he wanted. The same people who produced Dune produced Blue Velvet. Do you know De Laurentiis?
Really?
Which is interesting that he still worked with him, and they still work with him.
Maybe he had.
But
a deal
basically,
for two.
he had, this was the lowest by dollar value project they had. So they didn't spend any time really monitoring
Regulating
what
him.
was going on.
That's
And
the
he just
best
went to
situation for
Wilmington,
Lynch.
North Carolina, and filmed. So you can still go to Wilmington and drive around and see a lot of the sites
Really?
around here, which is pretty cool. I guess there was a little bit of controversy during the Dorothy Valance walking out naked scene because people were like gathered around to watch it, and they must not have realized.
Hmm.
So after that, he got banned from like public shooting, but he got that shot in, so I guess that's all he needed.
Yeah.
Um,
That's probably the
I
4
guess-
hours. He had a whole scene, lots of scenes with her doing that, but
I
they
guess
cut it out.
you can watch on the Blu-ray release of the film and probably the Criterion. You can watch the deleted scenes, and there's a whole character who's Jeffrey's college girlfriend. So like he's like cheating on like multiple like. There's a lot of cheating going on, which
It's
is not
Twin Peaks.
outside of David Lynch's normal movies where people are kind of just like in relation. Everyone has to be in a relationship with like two people at the same time, and it's like you can't even feel bad for anybody because they're like also cheating on.
Well, the tagline for Fire Walk with Me is, "In the town of Twin Peaks, no one is innocent."
Yeah. Twin Peaks is just like, again, more of Blue Velvet and leans even more into the suburban
Yeah.
kind of quaint feel. But I from what I've heard too, the longer cut of the movie does no favors for Jeffrey. Like it makes him like a less likable character. He seems like more of a jerk.
Really?
So it's probably good that they cut out. I mean, usually it's good when things get edited. Like as fun as it is to like think about things being longer, like usually there's a reason things get cut out.
Well, Wild at Heart, nobody was likable in that.
That's
Unless
true.
you see through the facade of is it facade or facade?
Facade.
Facade of Nick Cage's character, but
I mean, I think the two main characters in Wild at Heart are supposed to be likable. Just they're like the way that they're portrayed to the viewer is supposed to make you like them in spite of what they do.
Yeah, I see what
I'm not saying that like if you're looking at it objectively they are likable. It's more of like the film is communicating to you you're supposed to like them.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I guess.
Which some people might find them likable.
Yeah, some people might find them. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is like one of the more solid films in his filmography, and it's probably one of the films that makes the most sense. I would say besides the straight story, so far this is because it's like Dune was supposed to make sense, but it didn't. And then you have like obviously Mulholland Drive, which doesn't really make sense, and then Inland Empire, which you shouldn't try to make sense of it. So it's like this is like a very linear storyline for David Lynch.
Yeah, this is like him. This is like a middle point in his career. This and Wild at Heart, because they're like straightforward stories that just have like surreal elements to them.
Yeah.
And again, it's a lot of use of motifs and just focusing on themes.
Yeah, for sure.
But as opposed to when the themes start becoming the only things and the motifs, and then there's no plot. It's just all motifs.
He
and
just
themes.
leaves it all behind. He's like, let's just have these motifs rise.
It's just like, imagine a whole movie that's just like the severed ear and black ants and.
That's a good question. So I have a question then. So that severed ear he found, was that man's?
That was the implication.
Sure, but I don't get that.
Well, again, this goes back to his story. Another thing that was like a catalyst to the film existing was this idea that that he finds the ear. It's like a hole into someone's body, or something. He described it like it's a hole into your mind, the ear, because it's the anatomical way
so
that.
Like, was that
it's on
dead
your
guy
body.
there the whole time?
No, not the dead guy. Which dead?
The guy without the ear that was tied up. Wasn't he dead?
Yeah, he was dead at that point, but I don't think he was dead the whole time.
Oh, so he
had just cut off his ear. So that was Dorothy Valance's husband.
Yeah, and
the ear got cut off first. Then he gets to the point, and then he gets killed.
Gotcha. Okay. I was just thinking he would die by bleeding. That's just my natural thought. But anyway, that makes sense.
They must have had enough equipment during the ear cutting. I mean, what happened in Reservoir Dogs?
Or in the Bible?
Did the guy like got burned alive after his ear got cut off, or something like that?
No, he kind of. I think he makes it. I think he survives.
He does survive.
Yeah.
So getting an ear cut off is not life-threatening immediately.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's very unpleasant.
Or like when
there's a lot of cartilage. You're right.
Peter cuts off, what's his name, Mark something, whoever is in the garden, right?
Isn't it just like a guard?
Yeah, he has a name though, but they cut off his ear, and I think he's like, just don't do it, put it back in the sheath. Anyway, so I guess ear decapitation.
Do you think that's a biblical reference? I don't think so.
No, probably not. I mean, Quentin Tarantino might have that as a biblical reference. Funny thing is, I watched a movie that had the same fake verse quoted as the Quentin Tarantino.
I know, that's crazy.
Pulp Fiction, and I'll go get into that movie highlights, but I just found that interesting. But
like I said, the soundtrack is amazing, and the man behind it, Angelo Badalamenti, he would go on to work with pretty much every other David Lynch project after this.
Nice.
His Twin Peaks soundtrack, super amazing. You gotta listen to it. He was in it as the piano player at the Slow Club, and I saw a brief interview with him, and he was basically like, "Yeah, working with David Lynch was so great. We never fought ever. We were like perfectly in sync."
That's amazing.
So
and to be able, he must be weird then too.
Yeah, I mean, he could dream up these like surreal things along with Lynch's vision. He could just like hear what Lynch is like. I want to use this Bobby Vinton song that evokes this feeling in me, which is, I think the Bobby Vinton Blue Velvet is like a cover of some pop songs. Used to be like somebody wrote them, and then like 10 people sang them. And Bobby Vinton's version of Blue Velvet was just like the most popular, and it is good. It's like I will listen. Like after I watch this movie, I listen to that song a lot.
I was thinking to myself, Ben, this is like a funny and not funny thought at the same time. So laugh if you wish, based on your discernment. David Lynch probably would be such a delight to work with, based on what I hear about him. And I'm just imagining the tone of those dark scenes while they're filming. Like, all right, Isabel, come on, lay down. All right, move the legs in that direction. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, no, it would
be
seems
like the tone on the set was really positive.
It was. Everyone said that they felt
wife,
safe,
right?
Yeah, or they were at least together. Yeah. I can't remember if they got married or not.
So it's like, and then you have two people who adore David Lynch, Laura Dern and Kyle MacLachlan, and then Jack Nance. I'm just saying, like, you have people that adore the director, say that he is such a positive person to be around. And then I'm just wondering, like, filming those dark scenes, do you think Lynch was serious? Or do you think it was just kind of like, all right, I can't do the voice, but all right, guys, let's do this terrible scene.
Well, however it was, it seems like everyone had a good experience. And it just seems like he does a good job of, like, framing the purpose to the actors of what they're doing.
Yeah.
Because the way that Roger Ebert and other critics saw this movie was, this director is being tongue-in-cheek and he's having jokes, and then he's like basically humiliating his actors, making them do these, like, portray these scenes of violence that had to be like horrible to be a part of. But it doesn't, like I said, if you actually pay attention to the movie and then you observe Lynch as a person, which I think you kind of have to do to really understand his work, because it is so personal. Like, you can't just make these surreal images and not have any personal association with them and it come across as genuine. Because if you look at his movies, they do come across as genuine, and the reason why is because he had an experience. He's tying in these experiences. I think that's why people say when Lynch is copied, it's terrible, because people are probably not doing that. They're starting at, look at what he created, I want to create that. They're not starting at the personal, introspective aspect and then drawing it out.
You can't recreate that.
Yeah, that's really personal to Lynch. That's why it's called Lynchian. Yeah, because you can't do it. Only David Lynch can.
Yeah. So how many films do you know did he have total, like official films? I'm not counting Rabbits. I'm not counting his artwork.
I thought it was 10.
So he had a solid 10. That's great. So obviously, starting from Eraserhead to Inland Empire.
I was gonna look up on Letterboxd, but they're gonna include all the weird stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure it's 10.
Yeah, and then
Email us at themovievaultpod@gmail.com if we're wrong.
And subscribe to the Last Resort Network on YouTube. We have a lot of crazy things going on there. I'm live.
A lot of growth.
Yes.
I'm checking our one more subscriber.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
A lot of growth. A lot of growth.
A lot of growth. We got 2 subscribers today. Hey, at this rate, then we'll get 700 by the end of the year. That's good.
Hey, you just got to think about the fact that in less than 2 months, we've doubled our subscriber count at least.
Mm-hmm.
And
from 1 to 2.
No, from 24 to 54.
Oh, okay.
Grown by 30 subscribers since whatever the first video I posted was.
Yeah.
And that means if we keep doubling, it's exponential growth.
Yep. I'll be live streaming tonight. Now, tonight doesn't mean your tonight because this episode will be released on another night. But, yeah, anyway. By the way, before we forget, there are many things in life that are unpredictable, whether that is hiding in someone's closet and sinning and the consequences that come from that, or keeping your stove on, or having a flat tire, or dying. And how do we prepare for those things, Ben? Do we just, throw a rock in the river and say, "River monster, help me"?
You could try that, but it's not going to work as consistent. It's not going to work as consistently as Hedman Anglin Agency protecting you through insurance.
Yes.
So, if you need help with auto, home, business, or life insurance, call them at 614-486-7300.
That's
614-486-7300. And of course, make sure to tell them that Ben and Zach sent you from the Movie Vault and Last Resort Network.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I am I am officially insured by Hedman Anglin Agency, and we've had only pleasant experiences with Mr. Anglin and his wonderful team down there at HAA. And I can only say positive things, and I'm not even forced to say this. If they were bad, I would say it. That's how much I protect you guys as our listeners.
We would never accept money from a company that we didn't trust.
Yeah.
And I stand on that.
Yeah, we'll see if that changes in the future.
Now, if somebody offered me a lot of money, I'm just kidding.
But for now, since we only have one company to represent and we trust them, we say we will never do it until McDonald's comes and says, "Do the ba-da-da-da-da." And then we will do that for an inordinate amount of money. So what kind of last things do you have to say about this film, Ben? This is your second time watching it. Was there anything different?
No, I think I just reminded about what was so great about it and why I liked it so much the first time I watched it.
Mm-hmm.
I think in a lot of ways, yes, I was expecting the scenes of violence, so maybe it was a little bit less shocking on second viewing.
Yeah.
And it's also like not compared to Wild at Heart, it's not as long. Like that movie was just like so overwhelmingly throughout the movie. I don't know.
Was that 3 hours?
It wasn't 3 hours, but it felt like it. I think it was like 2 hours still. But and I do truly think that there's like a genuine point to be seen here about how there are a lot of like really hurting people out there, and how, and it's noble that we get to see the happy ending, and it's not just this like sad, like there's sad things that happen to the world, and there's always a bad ending to those things. Yeah, like I think there's like redemption, especially for Dorothy Valance, maybe hopefully growth in Jeffrey's life, and then Frank gets the end that he deserves. Mm-hmm. So it's not trying to undercut or be tongue-in-cheek or be smart. It's just showing you maybe a really extreme version of life, really amped up version.
And unfortunately, in many cases, not that extreme.
Yes. Probably a little less, I don't want to use the word glamorized, but I kind of do, because there's a lot of like flashy elements to this movie.
Yeah.
And in real life, it would just all be bad and gross.
But I can't say I've seen Kyle MacLachlan's butt now.
Yeah.
Not to make tongue in cheek of that. I'm just saying that's a fact.
You know what other actor really likes to have their butt in movies?
I don't know.
Willem Dafoe.
Does he really?
He loves it. So
you're going through his filmography.
Yeah. I think it's in all of his first 3 movies.
Seriously.
Yeah.
3 butts in a row.
3 butts in a row.
All right. We'll see if that's a motif for him.
It just shows his insane commitment. Another interesting thing, Siskel, who's Ebert's opposite, he loved this movie. So I got to go back and watch them fighting about it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why Siskel was not beloved as much. He must have been like a little bit snarkier and less lovable compared to the Roger Ebert.
Yeah.
And I know their whole dynamic was kind of that they didn't like each other, so that was the whole reason. I'm glad that's not.
It's like Drake and Kendrick. They know they're making money off of it.
Right. When people say that we're going to be the next Siskel and Ebert, which is kind of like a ridiculous thing to say.
Has anybody ever said that about us?
Yeah, people like it's usually somebody who's in the era where Siskel and Ebert were like the only critics that people paid attention to.
Gotcha.
And they'll be like, "Oh, you guys are going to do like this." Hopefully not, because hopefully we don't like hate each other.
Yeah.
I don't really want that, and a lot of times we agree. So
but we would.
We're not really doing a good job.
We would pretend.
We
I just had a minor voice crack again.
For Last Resort Network, maybe we should just start like pretending that we hate each other and having like a bunch of like debate.
I thought about doing a leg wrestling tournament for a video. Just like get all the guys together.
I would like lose so badly on that.
Oh, I would lose. Jacob would kill me.
Mark Kermode, another famous critic, he walked out his first viewing. So this really did get under people's skin.
You can't walk out as a critic.
I know.
That really brings your credibility lower.
I know.
Because you got to review the bad ones too.
Yeah, and he did revise it and said he liked it later.
See, that's just it's such an emotional reaction walking out. But I get it. Like if
he said at the point of time that he watched it, he wasn't good enough for it. So
and I was about to say, and I get it if it's triggering. I think that's different though.
Yeah, that's true. You have to keep that in mind.
Yeah.
This film could be very triggering.
So this film is really not for most people, I would say. So I don't recommend watching it. It's not a must watch. It's not a botch though.
Yeah, it's one of those weird. It occupies that weird space where it's like a really important movie and a really powerful movie. But when you say powerful, that means sometimes it could be too powerful. So just be careful about that.
Yeah, I think if Lynch had a fault, and he did, of course, we have said that many times. We praise Lynch on this podcast, but we also say his faults. It's that he often would use extreme ways to get his point across when it wouldn't be necessary. But that's kind of what makes him stick out. Like he did that on purpose.
Right, and it's weird compared to other people who, like, I think about Eli Roth. The Eli Roth movies I watched are really shocking.
Thanksgiving.
But I didn't watch that
Tim
movie.
Dillon.
Well, like Hostel or like Cabin Fever. They're very, very violent and like, but I don't know. They don't like stick out the way that Lynch's movies do, because Lynch actually has like a purpose to the things he's doing. He's not just trying to make shock art, like or like horror. He's not leaning into a specific genre that's like about a certain thing. Yeah, he's not Tarantino.
And we have broken our QT role in the last 9 episodes.
No, we haven't.
Yeah,
he's just, you can't get him out of you.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know. It's like a plague.
Yeah, he is the Gen X biggest influencer when it comes to films.
Yeah. And even, I mean, we always bring up Scorsese. He also doesn't shy away from violence at all.
No. But
his movies feel like they have purpose. But
I was about to say, Tarantino doesn't really even support the plot most of the time.
Right.
It's just violence.
Yeah. The big three: Lynch, Scorsese, Tarantino.
What a three. Has anybody ever said that?
I think Lynch would have... I think Lynch... Well, it's interesting because Isabella Rossellini... dated or was married to Martin Scorsese.
No way,
before she was with David Lynch.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that.
And Scorsese said that he liked Lynch before Rossellini signed on to do Blue Velvet.
Okay.
So there's a lot of like, but I don't know that Scorsese and Lynch were like ever talked or were like buds. They definitely weren't buds.
Yeah.
Maybe
they were in a love
ran
triangle.
into each other. Because Lynch, again, like I said, he's an outsider. He would have hated. I feel like Tarantino and Lynch would have not gotten along at all. They just don't seem like the same type of person. Their way that they go into filmmaking is like so different. Tarantino from the like, I just watch a ton of movies, to the Lynch like very like feely, like his movies are influenced by a lot of things that are not movie related.
Yeah, I have to imagine they would be extremely annoyed with each other.
Yeah.
More so QT with Lynch.
Yeah, because Lynch would I think he has a higher tolerance for putting up with all kinds of people than QT does.
Because we even know with QT's guys like Roger Avery, that they fought a lot. They didn't always get along. Rarely did they get along.
They're like Siskel and Ebert. Oh my goodness.
So then if Lynch is getting along with this music guy, then you know what I mean? Like he can have different types of relationships, I guess.
Yeah, I think what we've been learning is that's in many ways Lynch's greatest strength. I don't think he would have had the career he had if he wasn't able to like form so many tight-knit relationships with people. Like the way he made people feel, that made him always want to like return to his projects and keep working with him. Even studios just couldn't get away from him. Like we'll get into it with Mulholland Drive has a much more interesting like beginning to the concept than I initially thought. And some of that has to do with like just like studio relationships that they just couldn't stop going back to him. Yeah. There's something like really dynamic about Lynch that people
a genuine
just like
testament
us
to his genuineness.
We can't stop talking about him on this podcast.
Sure. Yeah. It's been
he just
so much
gets you.
But it really is a testament to that genuineness, because it's like when he has an actor, he keeps that actor. When he has a concept, he keeps that concept throughout his films. It's like he holds on to what is good. It's not just a tool for him. These are meaningful ideas, motifs, actors, actresses, plots, storyline. You know what I mean? It's not about the money. It's not about these things. It's not even about, at the end of the day, it's like he compromises sometimes. It's not all about getting his point across as well. Like to some degree, he has a great, beautiful vision that's dark often, but it's not all about that, right? It's his thing is about themes. And you can only make movies about themes when you are genuine, in my opinion, because themes are irreplaceable, if that makes sense. Like you can't do big budget and have strong theme. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like to have a theme driven movie is to be to write a genuine script. There's no easier way to say that.
Very true. Very well stated.
Well, not really, but I'll say I think it just is a testament to how real he is. And nobody has loved their director more than people have loved Lynch, unless you're like Scorsese and his two guys, or you know what I mean.
But even then, I don't know that those relationships were as loving as they were practical.
Yeah, I mean, you can see DiCaprio now is trying to take that De Niro spot, and he obviously has. Like he's in the lead of all these new films for Scorsese, but it's like DiCaprio saw how De Niro shot up on like, this guy is not just a small actor. This guy is like one of the greatest actors of all times. And Scorsese is one of the greatest directors of all time. So I think DiCaprio probably had other intentions to fill that spot besides, I really like Scorsese.
Right. They both know that the other person is good for what they're doing. Mm-hmm. Like, this is a big actor. I need big actor and a big actor in my movie. This is a big director. I need a big director for people to view me as a big actor. It's like a symbiotic relationship. It's not necessarily like a nostalgic, or that's not the right word. I can't think of what word, but there seems to be a real kinship between like Laura Dern and David Lynch and Kyle MacLachlan. And MacLachlan maybe more so realizes that Lynch made his career by like writing him as Dale Cooper. But to the same extent, I mean, MacLachlan being so good as Dale Cooper, I think specifically Dale Cooper, I think MacLachlan is great in this movie, but he was born to play Dale Cooper. And the fact that Lynch was able to like bring him through a couple movies and then be like, then really turn the spotlight on him, I think is incredible. Because I think, Twin Peaks in a lot of ways doesn't work without Kyle MacLachlan playing Dale Cooper.
It doesn't work at all.
Yeah, it doesn't work at all. You need that character. And Lynch recognizing this is me as like, this is like the movie version of me.
I mean, he was possibly the only likable character in that show.
Yeah.
Possibly.
Besides Gordon.
Yeah.
You don't like Albert?
No, I really came around to Albert.
Yeah, Albert's a guy you come around
because he became a trustworthy guy, right? He ends up helping them at the though he's a jerk.
he's just very he's not afraid to speak his mind.
But Dale Cooper brought him there, so that's why you like Dale Cooper more. He wants to do the right thing. Yeah. But anyway, do you have any final thoughts, or should we move on to movie highlights?
No, I think I've said everything I can say about this movie. I do think with Lynch movies, in general, sometimes you're like, oh, there's so much to talk about, and then you're like, wait, what do we talk about?
Theme-driven
Because
movies.
it's theme-driven.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just an interesting observation about his films in general. We'll see how we do with the even more theme-driven ones coming up.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about that.
Yeah,
But
his later career really delves into that.
do you want to do movie highlights then?
I got you. I watched The Great Gatsby 2013 because I read the book a couple weeks ago. Excuse me. And yeah, just not amazing. I thought it was a poor rendition. I didn't like that they had modern music in it. I thought that was crazy weird. Like they had a little bit of rap in there. I was like, this is the 1920s.
Yeah, that I can already see that.
Yeah.
Not vibing well with me.
Yeah. So just whatever. I always liked Tobey Maguire. He plays Nick Carraway. I watched the Minecraft movie twice, so I'll just get that out of the way. It's such a brain rot movie, but I guarantee, like I was a Minecrafter. I haven't played in a long time, but I hate to say it, but I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it.
What is the purpose of movies? It's at the end of the day, enjoyment's a huge aspect.
And part of that reason is I had such low expectations after the chicken jockey memes in the I Am Steve and the chickens, whatever,
because they just like clip out like the dumbest parts of the movie.
And it's not just that, Ben, because they do that, but this movie plays so deeply into meme culture, and they made a movie that is trying to make money off of reels and clips, and you know what I mean. Like, so there's
that's
like,
crazy.
There's like a crazy motif, brain rot, TikTok type joke every 5 seconds with this film, and
that's insane.
And then I've never seen anything like it, and it's really.
I want to watch it now.
Well,
I do want to watch it.
I kind of want to talk about it more, maybe with Toby, because we did a Minecraft episode with him before.
Yeah,
but it's really a testament. It's really like a snapshot of our culture at the moment. Just the short attention span, the inability to take things seriously, the, I guess, memification of every possible serious thing that exists. Jokes being meta, and then like things that are normally not jokes becoming jokes, if that makes sense. Like even serious things in this film became jokes. And it wasn't political. They didn't shove any Disney crap in there. It was good because it's not a Disney film. But it's just like, chicken jockey. That is the vibe of the whole movie. Chicken jockey. Like really, like that summarizes it.
That is so interesting, and it brings up this what I was thinking about with Lynch, and not to bring Lynch back into it, but Lynch is so opposite of what everything is today.
Mm-hmm.
It's like everything has become like a metatextual joke, cynical version of itself, and I love that. Like because I grew up in that, but now I'm starting to realize that like maybe I don't like love it as much as I used to.
Yeah.
Like I've seen it so much, but at the same time I'm very curious about the Minecraft movie, and I kind of want to watch it now.
This is what I'll say. I did enjoy it the second time, so even though I'm disparaging whatever this film, and I enjoyed it a lot.
You're not really disparaging it. You're just saying
what it is. Yeah.
And you can make a judgment on what it is based on what you think.
I think Jack Black is the future of children's movies. In big IP children's movies. He's obviously Bowser, and now he's got this. I think this is the start for him being like the guy to get kids to come to films. I think Jack Black has a great future ahead of him. And it seems like it's the end of his career. He's been in so many things, right? From School of Rock in the 90s all the way to early 2000s.
Early 2000s, yeah, but still.
All the way till now, like he's just now booming in this kids industry. Post Tenacious D, stuff, because he broke up with Kyle Gass, everything with Tenacious D and his band. So yeah, I could foresee like a future, I don't know. I'm thinking of an IP that they haven't made yet. Zelda's already cast.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of one too. I mean, they'll come up with something. They'll recreate something. I said they should do the I don't know if this is how you pronounce it, the Blockus movie.
What's that?
Do you know the game that is like little squares that fill up a board? Here,
Tetris?
No, it's called Blockus. It's this game
that's too niche, Ben.
No, it's not niche. After I watched Clue, I was like, they should make a Blockus movie, because like if you can make a movie about this game, you can make a movie about anything. I promise you.
Yeah.
This game, it's the game with the little squares, and you have to like get rid of them, but other people are also playing them.
Yeah, but if they let's just say they make a Kirby movie coming up, right?
Right.
We could say big IP, right? People know him from Smash Bros. And then you just have Jack Black play a major character in that film, and it's a commercial success. I think that's what's going to happen. I think
definitely.
I think this film
possibility
will make sad to say, I think it'll make almost $1 billion. I think it's the biggest opening night since Barbie.
Well, because people take their kids and then their kids want to see it again and again.
Mm-hmm.
And
like
then
me.
That's a parent ticket and kids tickets.
And the promotions have been so good. I'm not talking about chicken jock. I'm talking about like there's a Minecraft Happy Meal. If you check our YouTube Last Resort Network, I show you what that looks like in a short. But it's delicious. The nether sauce is so good. I hope McDonald's is open on the way home. We'll find out. But I mean, it's just like promotions. And then Minecraft is already the biggest game in the world.
Right. Very true.
Long term, right? Maybe not at this moment, but long term.
And that just shows you the reality of filmmaking, which is that
Fortnite
it's
movie,
a business.
Jack Black, main character. I'm calling it right now.
It could happen.
Sorry to interrupt.
It could definitely happen.
Jack Black, main character of Fortnite movie.
Yeah, it's a business, and this is this is gonna ultimately it is a good thing when movies make money, no matter what the movies are, because that just keeps movies being made, which is a good thing in today's culture when there's a big question of like what does the future of movies look like.
Yeah.
But then I guess if they're all like this, that could be spell trouble.
I don't know.
What if movies are just like TikTok? We had this like concept of like a movie that's just like TikToks, and then you start seeing like a plot as someone's like scrolling on the screen.
That's gonna happen.
I'm like, is that just what movies are gonna be now?
Films like Searching and Missing have dipped their toes in that, right? Where it's
that's
like
what I'm saying.
Screen only films.
Yeah, it would be. I mean, it'd be difficult to pull something like that off, but at the same time, it's like, well, maybe everything has to be short form. Maybe we're going back to short films. I don't know. Like everything being like you watch 5 short films or
full circle, Buster Keaton style.
Yeah, maybe literally we'll go back to like, oh, movies without sound is like really cool. Like, who knows what's gonna happen?
In black and white, that's sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think so because those movies require a different kind of attention span, so probably won't work out.
No, most kids will turn off if it's black and white.
No, I mean, I realize every day like how immersed in movies I am when I like talk to somebody. I'm like, oh yeah, I watched this. Like, well, I'm gonna go through the first movie I watched. I rewatched Breathless, which is one of my favorite movies. Huge French New Wave movie. Maybe it was the second big one after the 400 Blows, and it's Jean-Luc Godard's debut, and it's just brilliant. Jump cuts, the slice of life, characters who are despicable.
Is this the Samurai guy?
No, it's not. It's not a guy.
We reviewed one of his films, right?
Alain or Godard.
Did we?
I don't think we've done a Godard movie because somebody was it Louis Malle who did Le Samurai? I can't remember. It wasn't Godard though.
We haven't done a Godard film?
We haven't.
Are you sure?
We're gonna get to it one day. Whether it's a French New Wave series or a Godard series or whatever.
Lucifer is a 2019. It's not Bollywood, but it's hold on. It is a type of film. Hold on. It's a genre of film I kind of want to look into. Malayalam or something like that, and that's the language. It was a fun film. The main actor is really good in it. It's 3 hours long, but there's a sequel coming out this year that I'm gonna go see with a group of guys. So that's my first Indian film, and then obviously Blue Velvet. But that's it.
Sweet.
What about you? You got a lot, don't you?
Yeah, I just said so. Yeah, Breathless was the first one. If you haven't seen Breathless, you got to watch it. But like I said, I was telling people that I watched this movie, and they were just like shocked that I would watch a French black and white movie. But if you watch it, it's so engaging. Like, it's a short movie, and the characters are interesting. And yeah, a lot of it's like these two characters just talking to each other, but it's filmed in such an interesting way that, like, I don't know, I just get immersed in it. I watched a Humphrey Bogart B movie that was from like before he got popular called Sabotage. No, wait, I'm getting these films mixed up. That is not a Humphrey Bogart movie. This is a Alfred Hitchcock movie from the 1930s called Sabotage. I guess it can tell you how much, compared to other Hitchcock movies, Sabotage was kind of, I don't know. I found my focus drifting away from it a lot, but it's a decent movie, and it's Hitchcock, and it's early in his career, so it's important to understand how he got to where he got to in the 50s and 60s. Kind of like again, it's a lot of like what Hitchcock does with like mystery, thriller, crime category. Has to do with a wife starting to realize that her husband is a terrorist. Yeah. So kind of interesting movie. Then the Humphrey Bogart B movie, which I did watch, it was called King of the Underworld, and it's Humphrey Bogart as this bumbling gangster who goes into this town, and it's silly. It's really silly. And it's hilarious because it's all the cliches about like the idiot sidekicks and all of that are in this movie. And there's a female doctor who her husband got in trouble for treating mobsters, and I think went to jail or something. Anyway, and then she has to move to a different town to kind of like create a new image for herself. And then the first person who she runs into is this guy who's a mobster and needs medical care and is like kind of forcing her to take care of him. And it's about like their relationship and how things play out. But again, it's just funny to see Humphrey Bogart, who becomes like a very serious actor later in his career, in this kind of like buffoon cartoonish movie. Like, and he really was like a working actor until he finally got like a breakthrough later in his career. So he spent a lot of time like doing these like B movies. Then I watched Boiler Room, which is going to be the subject of my next random movie reviews. Definitely a more interesting movie to watch and review than The Limbic Region was. It stars Phoebe's little brother from Friends as the main character, Giovanni Rossepi or something like that. And then Ben Affleck and Vin Diesel and some other people who look like really familiar, but you wouldn't know their name. But they look like they've been in stuff that I've seen. Yeah, a lot of that guys in this movie. That's kind of just this movie doesn't have like a big reputation or anything, but it is like it fits the era that it comes from. It's a good like snapshot of what was going on in 2000, and it's a finance-driven movie about the stock market. So imagine Wolf of Wall Street. It really is. I know Wolf of Wall Street came out like 13 years later, but you're like almost like, did Scorsese watch this movie? Probably not. But it also wears its influences on its sleeve. So it's super influenced by the movie Wall Street and Glengarry Glen Ross, which it literally quotes both of those movies in the movie. So you know that they're like direct influences. So I'm watching Wall Street right now to get like a background on what like finance movies influence this movie. But the script's mostly written, so I'm excited to release that. Should be a fun video. And then I rewatched Headshot because Emma's taking Thai cinema. And it's a Thai movie.
With Professor Johnson.
Pretty good action movie. And if you're at Audubon, take contemporary Thai cinema with Professor Johnson. It's a fun class.
Trying to convince Micah to do it.
Yeah, he's got to do it. All right, that's all my movie highlights.
That's a lot.
Yeah, we've been watching a lot of movies.
We have been going ham on the Last Resort Network YouTube, so please check us out. We have put all of our podcast episodes up there. Most of them are not video. We hope to do video one day. We're not going to promise anything anytime soon until we get a studio. Wait till we take off or win the lottery or get a really good Pokemon card, which is the Child's Lottery. So let me just say, go subscribe there. Push notifications. Put it to all. You know what I'm talking about, that bell.
Because we got a lot of stuff going on. We have shorts. We have live streams. My goal, and I never like to set things, but my goal is to release at least one video every week as I can. So they're and it's kind of working out because I usually like have released a video and then I'm most of the way through a script and then I'm in the planning stages of the next video. So it's kind of been working out pretty well for me thus far. And then Zach's been doing a lot of live streaming stuff. So if you're somebody who needs something on while you're studying, he's a good, you can study along with him. He does, what's the method called?
It's called Pomodoro.
So where you do a certain amount of time on and a certain amount of time off to give yourself a rest. And he gives you something to kind of look forward to during the break a lot of the time. He does switches on and off between medical and seminary studies. So really a great tool potentially to use if that's like a way that you want to study.
I also do some Pokemon openings sometimes, so stay tuned for all that too.
Yeah, so lots of cool stuff on Last Resort Network, and we're hoping that we can utilize that to boost what we can do with the podcast as well.
And you're wondering, why are we doing all these things? I think you could say it's for fame, but I also think I've really enjoyed the live streaming and figuring out the cameras and everything. It's been fun and enjoyable so far, and it keeps me accountable to staying and doing work.
And here's the reason I would say, for me personally, you can watch a lot of these movies, but at a certain point, you're just watching stuff. You have to give back to the community. The film watching community at some point. And maybe what you won't think what I'm giving back is any good, but I hopefully like somebody can learn something or find something interesting, or watch one of the movies that I like watching.
I'm just saying the Limbic Region is a movie from, what is it, 1978?
1996.
1996. I was way off. And
yeah, I thought it was older than that
it's
too.
It's the only film. It's probably the only movie review of that on YouTube. So you should just go check that out just for that niche culture right there.
We love a little niche culture around here. And yeah, for the random movie reviews, I'm literally using a random movie generator for the most part to come up with which movie I'm reviewing. I mean, sure, I'm going to reserve the right to skip a movie if I want to, but at the end of the day, it's going to be something that's relatively random. And I'm going to market it like that. So anyway.
Well, with that,
time to close the vault.
Yes.
Blue velvets.